Let's talk about some players that Hawthorn fans want to hear about. How's Mitch Lewis tracking?
So Mitch, unfortunate mishap in such a little innocuous thing that he did, but he's up and down, I would say. So he's running a bit already, but then he got a little bit of swelling in it, so then he has to back off. And if things go really well, I think he's still potentially going to be available for round 4 or 5 as an absolute best case scenario. There's nothing that will speed it up. And any setbacks he has, which is likely, will knock him back a week or 2 weeks or a month or 2 months. So at this stage, it's he just goes day by day and tries to get as much improvement as he can. And we're not going to rush him. He's an important player, and if you get a knee wrong, then it's 12 months out of the game. So we'd like to avoid that. But he's what's been really impressive about him is his just full commitment. He's out at the track. He's talking with the coaches. He's still doing tape. He's coaching some of the other key position forwards, and he's been really committed to what we're about to do.
How do you set up, not knowing exactly how long it's going to be without him, then, and who are the pieces that you look to move into that role? As you say, he was really good last year.
I don't think about really replacing. We've only got one Mitch Lewis, so you don't replace Mitch Lewis. You just try to find a different way that fits within our sustainable system. So you don't want to do something that you just have to throw out in 10 weeks' time. You want to have something that you think can be a way forward, and it's going to create an opportunity, whether that's for Fergus Green or Emerson Jekka, who's gone back into the front half, or Jai Sarong's had a really good summer. He rolled his ankle last week, so a bit of a setback for him. But there's going to be opportunities for those guys that perhaps weren't going to be there. So you have to look at the positive as well.
I know you've copped the ruck question a little bit already over summer, but how pleased have you been, watching them contest between themselves? It is a sort of specialist position in our game. Ned Reeves, Lloyd Meek, as you mentioned, and also Lynch. How do you see those three fitting in?
Yeah, Maxie Lynch and also Max Ramsden, who's a little bit younger and got a bit of a different skill set as well. I think we look at those 4 rucks and bringing David Hale into the midfield as a midfield coach. A part of that was obviously playing in the ruck. He looks at the game quite differently to most midfielders, looking at it from a tools perspective, and I think what that's done is given us a bit better grasp of how the ruck craft, not just at stoppage for instance, but also around the ground, will look. And I think the competition between the 3 older lads that are all, I think they're all 24, so Meekie, Reevesy and Lynchy, they've been competing, and sort of one guy gets in front and then another guy gets in front, and they've all got different skill sets as well. So watching them compete's been really good, and Max Ramsden's coming pretty fast, to be honest. He's probably still a little bit green, but it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility that he's getting into the side and causing some damage, but in a different way. He's obviously not a big physical man like the others, but his running capacity is pretty impressive.
It was this time last year he started to really blossom as an 18, 19-year-old, wasn't it?
Mid-season draft, so this was his first pre-season, and he's really actually set quite a benchmark as far as work ethic around the gym, and he's in the gym before breakfast and in after breakfast and then after training, and so he's one of those guys that's going to leave no stone unturned. First
pre-season, of course, for Cam McKenzie and Josh Weddle. Are you expecting those guys to be right in the frame for round 1?
Yeah, it's a bit early to tell. I think we probably have as many as 32 or 33 that are in the mix for round 1, and we'll have an intra-club. We'll have 2. We play against Geelong and Collingwood over the pre-season. So everyone will get a look, and it'll be about performance. And I think in the midfield in particular, it's like every time someone gets a clearance, maybe they're in the team. Every time someone gets beaten, maybe they're going to fall out. And so it's really quite even. It is. And I've said that to the players. I think some of the other positions are quite set. It's going to be... I think Luke Bruce is going to play in the forward pocket in round 1, and there's not really anything different that's going to happen about that. Whereas inside midfielders, I couldn't tell you who's going to be the starting inside midfield mix, and there's any one of, probably 8 players that could start in the centre bounce in round 1, and they all are so desperate for that. But what's important that they're going to get their opportunity at some stage, whether that's in the next 3 weeks or in the next 3 months, and making sure that they're ready to take those opportunities is what will be important.
Is Josh Ward a little bit behind the 8 ball, given his injury-affected summer?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because he's been a little bit less consistent on the track. He's played only 1 match play at the time of this filming, and he was clearly the best player on the ground in that one training session. So is that enough? Not right now. If we were picking the team right now, he'd be on the edge. But we're going to have plenty more games between now, and we'll give him every chance. And the same way, we want to give every player every chance to put their hand up and make it as difficult as they can for the match committee to pick a final 23.
How's Chad Summer been? There's always a lot of interest in where he's going to play and splitting that up as well. Obviously, such a dynamic player for you.
No, Chad's been really impressive. I've been really pleased with his pre-season. Obviously, we've got a new S&C coach in, and that brings its challenges because it doesn't know everyone's bodies and doesn't know what they are capable of. And Chad's had a really good summer. I think, physically he's in the best shape he's been since he's been at Hawthorn. So we're really pleased. I think his work ethic and what he's been able to produce. He had a week, maybe about 3 weeks ago now, and it was the most output he'd produced in a week for the previous 3 years. So he's in a really good fit spot, and he'll play some game time against Geelong. He's definitely going to play, and how he plays and where he plays is going to be up for debate amongst match committee.
Tyler Brockman.
He's in an interesting position because he had twin girls, and his life is so different to everyone else's on our playing list. He's the only player with kids, and he's got two new little girls, and so his lifestyle is really quite. I've got twins myself, and it's a challenging time, and so really what we're doing with him is giving him every chance to live a well balanced life, and he's been really impressive physically. I think he didn't come back, and we didn't want him to come back from Perth before Christmas, and he was training with Subiaco over there. So thank you to them for allowing that, training with one of our coach's boys, we didn't really know what we were going to get, but he came back in really good shape, really fit. He's got one of those lovable smiles. You can't help but enjoy hanging out with him, and he's put himself right in the frame. He's got right up, and we're going to have some match play on in a couple of days' time, and he'll play a half of that in the good side. So by the same as everyone else, we want to give him a chance to put his name up for round one.
Will Day is always a player that I'm interested in. Love watching him coming through. Obviously, some injury setbacks across his career so far. How's his body for a start? And secondly, is he going to be playing on the wing this year? Do you foresee that as being his position? You've got some exciting half backs already. He's one of those if you use him there. What's the sort of plan with Will?
I think his first 3 years he trained as a defender. And so what we've done this year is he can play defence, and we know that he can do that. So we've trained him as a midfielder, so inside and outside. And when the push comes to shove as far as selection, I'm not sure where he'll end up. At this stage, he's done most of the pre-season as a midfielder, and knowing that he's got the full-back position of being a defender. I think the thing with his body is he's been pretty consistent this pre-season, and training consistently around the midfield has meant, I think, that you get hit a little bit more often. And that's suited him, believe it or not. So when as a defender, you get hit less but hard, whereas as a midfielder, you're getting hit a bit more often, and he seems to handle that a bit better. So he's been strong. He's in a good position, really.
Let's talk about James Sicily then. Where does he take his game? Because obviously last year, stellar season, unlucky not to be on the Australian, but it's probably a debate for another day. How does he take his game another step forward after what he produced last year?
Yeah, it's a great challenge for James. If you think back this time last year, had been out of the game for a year. He was wondering, do I still have it? How good am I going to be? A real nervousness about him. But now, after a really solid season, there's a different mentality for him. And he's handled that really well. I think across the course of the pre-season, he's been a standout in all of the things that you would expect him to be a standout. I think adding some versatility to his game will be important, whether that's playing a bit further up the ground or playing on the opposition's best forward. There's some things that we've worked on over the summer, and depends how other parts of the game work. We know that he can play on the opposition's best, or he can be freed up, or even later in the year last year we pushed him into the midfield with reasonable results. So I think a little bit more flexibility to his role will make him a little bit more potent and a bit more damaging against some certain teams.
I remember actually speaking to you this time last year about him, and he did say that level of uncertainty about how it is to come back missing so much footy and so much time out. Were you sort of surprised in any way about how well it did click for him so quickly, given the severity of such an injury? It's a big injury.
Oh, not really. I think he did the work. So, and I don't mean the physical training, because that's I mean, everyone's going to do that. It's sort of everyone says, oh, I've never worked harder, and it's a kind of an expectation at this level. But what he did was he committed to a lot of other things. You know, he committed to his lifestyle, but he also committed to a lot of coaching. He spent a lot of time with Chris Newman in particular as the backline coach across the course of that season to learn the game and have a much greater understanding. He intuitively has a good feeling for the game, but he really has taken his game to another level with that understanding, and so he's really like another coach on the field. And that having that means that not only can he help the coaching group, but he can assist also with the way the game is being played, and he can make adjustments as an individual that help him be more consistent.
Just off the field, obviously there's a lot of discussion around the AFL investigation into the claims over the past years. Is that something you discuss with your players and keep them updated on where it sits so that they hear the news first, or hear any updates first coming from yourself or internally the administration of the club?
Well, to be honest, I don't have any updates, so I can't really pass on any updates. My understanding of it is that the AFL and probably some other bodies are going through a process, and when there is information, it will come to light. But at this stage, I don't have any. So, it's not something we talk about regularly with the players. I mean, I've had some conversations about it. It's certainly not taboo. People know that it's happening, but it's all very much in the background and something that's not front of mind for us at the moment.
Last one before we let you go, and thanks for your time. What's the biggest challenge of being a modern coach? You've seen coaches, you've played under a number of coaches, you've done it differently, you've seen different clubs, you've worked your way up to this point, and obviously last year was your first year in the role. What's the biggest challenge of being a coach in the way that the modern game's played and run and won?
I wish I had a great big insight for you, but I just think it's time and people management, really. I mean, you go from an assistant coach where you have 10 or 15 players and a couple of staff that you need to sort of keep an eye on, but all of a sudden you have 43 players and 6 or 8 coaches and 30 football department staff and 70 administration staff and 80,000+ members, and you're the face of a lot of that. And so every time you speak in front of a camera like this, you're representing 80,000 people. And it's not the pressure of it is just par for the course and what you would expect in the role, but making sure every person in all of those positions feels connected to the club, and whether that's parents of players or partners and staff and their partners, and making sure everyone feels connected to the club you've got a big role to play in all of those things. The 2 hours on game day is actually the beautiful bit that you just get to coach a football team. But I think it's the time management and people management to get everyone feeling really connected to your organisation so that you can all go in the right direction. It's the great part of the job, but it is the one that is the most difficult to balance.
Sam, thanks for your time and good luck with the season ahead.
No worries, thanks, Cal.
Thanks so much for listening to Your Coach. Keep clicking back to afl.com.au or download the AFL Live app to never miss a moment of pre-season news in the lead up to the opening round. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss a fresh episode of Your Coach.